Well, Victor Oladipo and the Pacers might be the East's best kept secret. Winners of 9 of 11 sitting in 4th place tonight. Indiana plays host to the Sixers. Still awaiting word on Joel Embiid's status. This video from about an hour ago when Embiid was on the training table courtside. He's a game-time decision due to lower back tightness. Later tonight at OKC, the Thunder look to bounce back after getting beaten up by the Hawks on Tuesday. OKC home for the LeBron-less Lakers at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. We're getting you set for the TNT doubleheader. Welcome on into Game Time Live. He's Kenny the Jet Smith. I'm Jared Greenberg. In 30 minutes, TNT's Thursday night coverage begins with the Sixers and Pacers, followed by the Lakers and the Thunder. Kenny, LA 4-7 without LeBron James. Won't be with the team tonight. Also won't be with the team Saturday for the game in Houston. Now, it's just started what is a brutal stretch of games for the Lakers here, and really a pivotal one as we're in the second half of the season for the team currently sitting in 8th place in the Western Conference. Pardon me, 9th place in the West.
Yeah, I mean, anything in the West is difficult. I don't care if it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks from now, or 3 weeks prior. All of these games in the Western Conference matter. Teams are such in a cluster fighting for those 6th, 7th, and 8th spots, actually 5 through 8. So this could be dynamic in a bad way for the Los Angeles Lakers.
You're breaking your pen.
Yes.
Throwing it around.
Yes. So it could be dynamic. I mean, you know, you can't go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak in the Western Conference and expect to be in the playoffs. It's that close, and it's going to be that close all year. There's only one team that would say that would not make the playoffs in the Western Conference is Phoenix Suns. Everyone else can viably say if we go on a 5-game winning streak, we're in the playoffs.
Right. Lakers beat the Bulls by 7 the other night. They've had home losses to the likes of the Knicks and Cleveland.
I watched both of them.
So how do you evaluate how this young group has done without LeBron?
I mean, when you have greatness, to me, it's easier to play well. When you have greatness, you know, overachieving is what you define what players can do. When we looked at last year, Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, they overachieved. You know, that dictates on what your future could be individually. But when you're playing with greatness, when you have a LeBron on the floor with you, you have a Anthony Davis, or you have Kevin Durant, or Klay Thompson, and things of that nature, and Steph Curry, that doesn't define how good you are. Mm-hmm. You know, that just defines how good they are. But this defines everyone from coaching staff to players, and it actually also gives us the management an opportunity to see, well, what guys will actually have the ability to play in any kind of situation. Because those are the guys who come to play and have the same rituals and same routines, the same work habits, and then produce the same way. Mm-hmm. You know, that dictates, and they produce into wins.
One quick note here while we're talking about the LeBron-less Lakers, and that's the late game against OKC. Before we get to OKC, just want to mention Serena Winters, the courtside reporter for the Philadelphia 76ers, is reporting that Joel Embiid will play tonight. So that's good news.
Well, usually when he's on the court in a uniform with grapes,
right,
laying on a couch on a table, that means he's usually playing.
Right. So Joel Embiid, dealing with back tightness, will indeed play tonight for the Sixers. That's the front half of the TNT doubleheader at 7 o'clock Eastern. Let's get into the Thunder, who is in the back half of the doubleheader against the Lakers, a team that's coming off of some surprising games lately. They are the best defense in basketball this year. And the other night against the Hawks, they gave up 142 points to what is the second worst offense in basketball.
Yeah, well, this team has been consistent, though. You know, you're going to have an instance where things aren't typical of who you are. You know, even the best drivers have an accident, so to speak. But I think
is that statistically true of you?
I would agree. I think that everyone's had a fender bender, even the best drivers. But what happens is that's not consistent of who you are, and I think that what the injuries to the front line when New Orleans went out, that changed the rotation a little bit and got them off track slightly. When they have their whole unit together, they're athletic, they defend, and they challenge. They don't block every shot, but they challenge every shot because they know that they're not a great three-point shooting team. Right. So in terms, the game does get shortened, and they don't take as many shots as typically as a Golden State. They don't take as many shots, early in the shot clock as other teams that are fighting for, the top of the West. So they are, to me, the most unique. They're a 90s basketball team.
Interesting.
They play like they're in the 90s, and that still wins.
Right now, the Thunder in the third spot in the East, and you mentioned Nerlens Noel, who had that really scary, not only contact to the head, but then the fall. He's cleared to play for tonight.
Yeah, and that's the difference, because when I've said this over the years, and you're kind of a newbie, so you might not have heard it, but you think about, you're a newbie with me. So, but I
think it's the third straight year doing this.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think when, let's say, your best two guard is out, and then all of a sudden your best small forward then plays some two guard, your best power forward kind of moves into the small forwards. Everyone's just off. Doesn't mean that they can't handle it for a while, but everyone's off. When he's coming off, he's their best big coming off that bench that creates that style of play, like you said, of defending the rim, slowing the game down, making sure that we get touches. Because even you think of him on the offensive end, you don't think that, wow, Nerlens Noel is going to be such a difference. Nolan's going to be such a difference. But when he catches the ball at the high post, he's not looking for a three. He waits. So that's 2 or 3 seconds he holds the ball. He finds the guard. Then he comes and sets the pick. Then that's 4 or 5 extra seconds in a possession that you take because he's on the floor. That changes the way you play now. And he's a guy who makes them play in a certain style. He helps that style. So having him back is going to be big.
The Thunder look forward to getting those 13 minutes per game back tonight from Nerlens Noel. Meanwhile, James Harden playing a ton of minutes, more than anybody in the NBA. Did it again last night. Back-to-back 50-point, that's just 50 points, plus 55-point games. Unbelievable. Harden, over his last 18 games, averaging more than 40 points. He's got 18 consecutive games scoring at least 30 points. Kenny, can you put into perspective just what Harden's doing right now in the NBA in terms of his offensive game?
Very Kobe-like. This was what Kobe was doing a lot, throughout his career. And what Kobe did actually with D'Antoni, that before he had his Achilles rupture. So, we just hope that he's not being overused.
Is that a concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the NBA, without question. You can't run a marathon. Marathon runners only run a marathon once. They take a month off, 2 months, and then they run again. You can't continually run a marathon every day the way James Harden is doing and be productive. It's just physically, too taxing. No matter how much you stay out of practice, how much you stay, because then you don't be sharp. You're not as sharp, and all of those things. And the preparation, people forget the preparation for a game, for most people, would be a workout. Stretching, you're getting your shots up, you're defending, you're loosening up. Like, that's a workout for the average American person or person around the world. That is the warm-up for an NBA player. So you do that over 82 games and you put in 42 minutes on it. And then the stress of creating double teams and beating double teams. It's different when even a Klay Thompson, if he was in a stretch like this, he's not creating the double team. The double team is usually created by, Durant or Steph Curry. So now he's allowed to shoot the basketball, where James Harden is creating the basketball, creating the double team and beating it. That is, I think it's too much for one person to do over this long of time, and I think it does wear you out. I think it does make you an easier defended team in the long run. Teams start to learn how to defend you easier when you have the ball in your hand more. They say, oh, well, that's worked. Now let's work. And this starts to wear him out. Yes, he's going to have tremendous numbers, because if you look at, again, you look at Kevin Durant, you look at Steph Curry, and you say, well, what would they average if they played 42 minutes a night? Those numbers would be probably close to 40 points a game as well, because they just don't stay on the floor that long. No one's going to keep them on the floor that long, and so they're not productive for the whole season.
Yeah, no question. It's been very taxing on Harden, and they lost that game last night where he scored 58. All right, we'll talk much more with Kenny Smith. Plus, we'll be joined by the big fella.
And if Shaquille O'Neal played 40 minutes in this era right now, he would average 45, 40 points.
50, I think he said. I think he said he'd average 50. Right?
Come here.
Diesel Tunks next, live on Game Time.
We got 2 games for you on Thursday, trusting the process, visiting the Pacers, and then the Lakers and Russell Westbrook and PG-13. 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Coverage starts at 6:30 with the Game Time. That's us on NBA TV. Now, you notice I didn't say LeBron because he will not be playing. LeBron James out for at least 2 more games. However, he has been cleared to return to practice next week. Since injuring his groin, the Lakers have gone 4-7 in 11 games without him. Their next 2 are on the road at OKC, which is on our network, and at Houston. And Rich Paul, his agent, weighed in today, reading, quote, "We don't give a bleep what anyone, what nobody thinks or says. We're going to do what's best for him. The best case scenario was 3 weeks. The worst case was 6 weeks. And we're right on schedule," end quote. Rich Paul drops the mic and walks off. Number one, how often do agents put out statements like this for their players speaking for them as a spokesperson? How often do you see this in the NBA or any professional sport?
It's unique.
Happens.
Yeah,
Does it seem unusual or am I tripping?
No, I think it's unique in LeBron's case because we're so
Yes.
used to hearing directly from LeBron James. But I would sense that the rancor about where's LeBron rescue this season, as it cranks up, there are going to be instances where somebody has to say something. I think this might have been Rich Paul just kind of want to set the record straight. I think it makes a lot of sense, too, Fish. If there was an internal understanding of what the timeline would be for LeBron, there's no amount of outside pressure or social media that's going to accelerate it. I mean, this is a guy who has never really been sidelined in this way, so why would you rush at this stage of the career? It would be foolish.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I think he's spot on. Whether we typically hear from Rich or not, it makes sense. He's LeBron's agent. His job description is to do what's best for LeBron. So what he says makes sense, and I agree in terms of the timing. I think everyone's just kind of clamoring for something because LeBron hasn't really spoken. Obviously, the Lakers are being cautious. They're not saying much other than he'll be reevaluated at the proper times. And so it's more noise than anything. With a significant groin injury, to 2 or 3 weeks later to be wondering why he's not back tonight, it doesn't really compute for me. So I say continue to take your time and do what you need to do.
All players are different. We saw Steph Curry have a similar injury. He missed 11 games earlier in the season. Steph, of course, a little bit younger than LeBron. But taking it onto the basketball court, how urgent is it for a player of LeBron's stature, who's obviously the best player in the league, the most important player on their franchise, for him to get back, seeing how they've slid from a top 4 seed now down to teetering to maybe being a lottery team?
Well, it's important for him to get back as soon as possible, but that has to be done in the right way. Steph Curry's injury probably was a different type of injury. LeBron's play was an awkward play and looked to put much more severe strain on the groin area than the play we saw from Steph Curry's injury. Getting LeBron back is paramount, but remember, this is month 4 of year 1. So if you want the LeBron James for the next 3.5 seasons to play at the MVP type level that he's capable of and showing no signs of really slowing down, then it is paramount to be patient right now. A few weeks now saves you a few years later, and that's what they need to do with this young man.
Well, it seems like you definitely want to take that into consideration, but let's not forget LeBron's not getting any younger. We all know Father Time's undefeated, so while you still want to manage that injury, you still want to make sure you don't lose an opportunity. This is a team that was right there close to the 2 seed earlier in the season.
But that was early in this season. There was also a situation where, did we really think the Lakers were a top 2 or 3 team in the Western Conference right now? So what they're doing is exposing themselves for what we knew them to be without LeBron James. You know, a team that would be maybe battling for one of those final spots in the playoff mix. The bigger pressure to me on the Lakers is actually external. You got now a Utah team with a very favorable schedule coming up, throughout this entire second half of the season, and they're playing better. So now if you're the Lakers, you're not just playing for the internal expectations. Now you got to worry about the real estate around you and who is climbing, who's coming up after you chasing that playoff spot that you've been sitting in. That's where I think the pressure, not on LeBron or anybody else, but just on the organization itself, weighs heavier than it might have otherwise. Look at what the Jazz, the Kings, and really the Timberwolves and Pelicans are kind of out there, but not a threat right now the way that the Jazz are clear and present. And then the Kings, if they get on a roll, then that's another team you got to worry about. What you got to have, if you're the Lakers, is LeBron back healthy and drama-free down the stretch run of the season. If it takes 2 or 3 more games, 4 games, whatever it is, you weigh that out and allow LeBron the time he needs to get healthy.
We talked about this off cam, but showing the signs of panic is when you look at Magic and Rob Pelinka and those guys. And Derek, I'll direct this question directly to you since you're familiar with the inner workings of that organization. Is there a situation where they make a knee-jerk reaction and make a move even though they're still waiting on LeBron just to try to maintain staying afloat in the Western Conference playoff standings?
I don't get the sense that that's what the feelings are. I think the thoughts lead more towards the future than right now. I believe the move to add LeBron James this year, or the decision that he made to come to LA, was really about what they're going to build this year into next year and really positioning themselves to be a destination for another top free agent or another top player via trade. Mm-hmm. And I think they've done a lot of that work. I do think that there are other players around the league that at the right time, and if things fit together, they will be willing to join LeBron in LA. And I think that's on track. And so I'm not sure if there's any huge move they would make in terms of LeBron being in or out. I think that move will be made either way.
The only potential wrinkle in this entire timeline, of course, is the trade deadline. You know, if somebody is desperate at the trade deadline to make a move or to do something, and the Lakers are on that phone, then all bets are off. We don't know what might happen. But I think that would be the case whether LeBron is in uniform
Correct.
or not.
That's what I agree with.
Having the trade deadline on the schedule the way we do before All-Star Weekend changes the dynamic, changes everybody's metric on how you approach it. That's the only, if to me, if the Lakers get past the deadline, Fish, why would you do anything to upset what you potentially have going on this summer? You ride this season out no matter what, no matter who's healthy, let chips fall where they will, and continue with your long-term plan to build this organization back up to the point where it can be a contender for years to come.
The NBA trade line coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow, so make sure you keep it locked right here on NBA TV, where we have all the latest updates on all the latest trade news. Luka Doncic, leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. We're going to talk to Jeff Skin Wade, who has all the insight on what's going on in Dallas. More Game Time coming up.